Hello, and welcome to this comprehensive summary of Quit Like a Millionaire, No Gimmicks, Luck, or Trust Fund Required by Kristy Shen and Bryce Leung. Over the next hour, we'll explore one of the most compelling personal finance stories you'll ever hear, a journey from extreme poverty in rural China to financial independence and early retirement at age 31. This isn't your typical feel-good self-help book. Kristy Shen doesn't believe in thinking yourself rich or manifesting abundance. Instead, she offers something far more valuable, a mathematically reproducible system that anyone can follow to achieve financial freedom, regardless of their starting point. Before we dive in, let me be clear about what makes this book special. Kristy's story spans the entire socio-economic spectrum. She went from living on 44 cents a day in communist China to becoming a millionaire who travels the world. Whether you're struggling to escape poverty, navigating middle-class financial decisions, or already wealthy and looking to optimize your investments, there's something here for you. The book is divided into 3 parts: poverty, the middle class, and becoming wealthy. Each section contains lessons that built upon each other to create what Kristy calls her rocket ship to financial independence. So settle in, and let's begin this remarkable journey. Part 1. Poverty. Chapter 1. Blood money. Kristy's earliest childhood memories involve digging through medical waste heaps in rural China, searching for discarded rubber bands to make jump ropes. This wasn't child services territory. This was just life when you're dirt poor. Her family survived on 600 Chinese yuan per year, equivalent to just 44 American cents per day. To put this in perspective, in 1987, the average American worker earned $18,426 per year. In China, it was $327 per year. For Kristy's family in rural Taiping, it was even less, about 2/3 of that national average. A Nintendo Entertainment System that an American worker could afford in less than a week would take a Chinese worker almost an entire year to purchase. But here's where Kristy's story takes an unexpected turn. Rather than viewing this extreme poverty as purely negative, she developed what she calls the scarcity mindset, a psychological framework that would eventually make her wealthy. The scarcity mindset emerged from studies of starvation. In 1945, scientists at the University of Minnesota conducted experiments to understand how to safely feed starving concentration camp survivors. They found that prolonged deprivation fundamentally changes your brain. When you lack something essential, it becomes your sole focus. Everything else fades into the background. For Kristy's father, who survived the Great Chinese Famine where millions died, food became an obsession that lasted his entire life. He taught Kristy to eat every part of an animal, to never waste a single grain of rice, and to treasure resources above all else. When Kristy was 7, her father sent her a musical birthday card from Canada that cost $1. She calculated that this card could have fed her family for almost 2 days. It became her most precious possession. This scarcity mindset taught Kristy 3 crucial lessons. Money is the most important thing in the world. Money is worth sacrificing for. Money is even worth bleeding for. Now, before you judge these lessons as too harsh or materialistic, understand their context. When you're poor, money literally equals survival. There's no romanticizing poverty when you've lived it. This mindset, while born from hardship, became Kristy's superpower. Chapter 2. Peach syrup, cardboard boxes, and a can of Coke. The first time Kristy felt rich was when her father gave her a can of Coca-Cola. In China, Coke was called Kiku Kele, meaning tasty fun. For a girl who was lucky if her drinking water wasn't contaminated with parasites, this was luxury beyond imagination. She was so excited that the sugar rush and adrenaline gave her a massive nosebleed. Kristy nursed that Coke for an entire week, savoring every drop. When she finished, the empty can became her cup, toothbrush holder, and hair roller. She named it Can, and slept with it every night. That's how precious a 50-cent can of soda was to her. This experience taught her the first practical lesson of the scarcity mindset. Scarcity breeds creativity. When you have constraints, you become ingenious. Think about it. When you have a month to write a paper, you procrastinate. But when the deadline is tomorrow, you become a productivity tornado. Kristy demonstrated this creativity throughout her childhood. When she wanted a Barbie dream house but couldn't afford it, she built one from cardboard boxes and fabric scraps. When her clothes were too worn, she patched and repatched them. When she couldn't afford cable TV, she spent countless hours in libraries, which sparked her lifelong love of reading and writing. This constraint-driven creativity taught her 4 vital skills, which she calls crap. Creativity, making toys from trash, building a dollhouse from cardboard. Resilience, getting stung by a wasp but wearing sunglasses to school instead of buying medicine. Adaptability, moving frequently for cheaper rent, always starting over. Perseverance, studying for 12 hours straight to overcome her academic limitations. The scarcity mindset also taught Kristy to identify invisible waste, something most people in wealthy countries completely miss. She shares a powerful example. Americans throw away 60 million tons of food annually because it's misshapen or discolored. That's 1/3 of all food produced. Additionally, 11 million tons of clothing end up in landfills each year. Kristy introduces a practical exercise to help identify your own invisible waste, the closet mapping technique. Push all your clothes to the left side of your closet. Mark a hanger with tape and place it on the far right. For the next month, every time you wear something and wash it, hang it to the right of that marker. After a month, you'll see exactly which clothes you actually wear versus which ones just take up space. The clothes on the left? That's your invisible waste. Chapter 3. Be Educated or Die. In June 2000, Kristy experienced a terrifying moment that would seem unthinkable in most contexts. Armed police stormed her high school classroom with assault rifles during a final exam. A student had been spotted with a gun, and this was just 1 year after Columbine. When Kristy called her father for a ride home, his response was shocking: "If the exam is still on, don't leave." To understand this seemingly callous response, we need to understand Kristy's father's history. During China's Cultural Revolution, he was forcibly removed from high school at 17 and sent to the countryside for re-education. He spent 10 years doing back-breaking labor, hauling 200-pound boulders in a quarry, surviving on meager rations, nearly dying when he slipped and almost got crushed. Then came his chance. In 1977, China reinstated the National College Entrance Exam. Out of 5.7 million people who took it, only 4.8% passed. Kristy's father scored 60 points above the required threshold. This exam literally saved his life and gave his family a future. Education wasn't just important, it was survival itself. Studies show that getting an undergraduate degree increases your average salary by 70%. Lack of education can be as harmful to your health as smoking, with high school dropouts dying on average a decade earlier than those with bachelor's degrees. This lesson, that education is worth any sacrifice, would shape every major decision in Kristy's life. Chapter 4. Don't follow your passion, yet. Here's where Kristy's advice diverges sharply from most career guidance. The phrase "follow your passion" only became popular around 2005, when Steve Jobs told Stanford graduates, "There's no reason not to follow your heart." But Kristy argues this advice is not just wrong, it's dangerous. She wanted to be a writer since childhood. But when it came time to choose a college major, she did something most creative people wouldn't. She created a mathematical formula to evaluate her options. Kristy developed the POTS score, pay over tuition. Here's how it works. POTS score equals median salary minimum wage, divided by total cost of degree. Let's look at her analysis. Creative writing, $13,520 tuition divided by $2,752 above minimum wage equals 0.20. POTS score accounting, $13,056 tuition divided by $23,952 above minimum wage equals 1.83. POTS score computer engineering, $14,488 tuition divided by $40,752 above minimum wage equals 2.81. POTS score. Computer engineering won by a landslide. For every dollar spent on tuition, she'd earn $2.81 more than minimum wage. Writing would give her only 20 cents. But wait, what about those success stories of people who followed their passion? Kristy addresses this head-on. Yes, Richard Branson and Katy Perry dropped out and succeeded, but they're exceptions, not the rule. Here's why follow your passion is flawed. Passions change. A Harvard/UVA study of 19,000 people found that nearly all reported their passions had changed significantly over 10 years. Passions don't necessarily make good jobs. Kristy loves cat videos, travel, and pad thai. That doesn't mean she can turn those into a career. Even now as a successful writer, there are parts of the work that are grueling, rewriting chapters endlessly, rejection letters, contract negotiations. Passions don't equal happiness. Happiness comes from the intersection of expectations and reality. Expecting your job to be engaging, give you autonomy, pay you fairly, and be fulfilling forever is unrealistic. The data backs this up. Let's look at updated POTS scores for dream jobs. Fine arts, 0.83 POTS score dancer, 0.51 POTS score actor, 0.52 POTS score. And surprisingly, even prestigious careers fare poorly. Doctor, 0.78 POTS score, due to expensive medical school and years of lost income. Lawyer, 1.09 POTS score. Meanwhile, a plumber scores 5.14, the highest of all. 2-year community college, high demand, impossible to outsource, and salaries up to $70,000 in big cities. Kristy's advice: don't follow your passion, yet. That yet is crucial. Get rich first by following the POTS score, then follow your passion when you don't need the money to survive. This is exactly what she did. She became a computer engineer first, achieved financial independence, and only then pursued her dream of becoming an author. Part 2. The Middle Class. Chapter 5-6. IOU equals I own you and no one's coming to save you. After graduation, Kristy discovered a fascinating cultural difference. Chinese citizens have an average savings rate of 38%, compared to just 3.9% for Americans and 2.8% for Japanese. Why? Kristy's father explained that in China, being in debt gives someone power over you. Debt was ingrained in the national psyche as dangerous because for most of Chinese history, owing someone created obligations that could be exploited. Kristy introduces the rule of 72 to illustrate the danger of debt. 72 divided by interest rate equals years to double. If you invest $1,000 at 6% annual return, 72 divided by 6 is equal to 12 years to double to $2,000. But if you borrow $1,000 on a credit card at 20% interest, 72 divided by 20 is equal to 3.6 years to double to $2,000 in debt. Debt is your investment strategy working against you. It makes the rule of 72 your enemy instead of your friend. Kristy outlines her debt destruction strategy. 4. Consumer debt, credit cards. Cut expenses to the bone. This is a financial emergency. Pay minimum on all cards, then throw everything extra at the highest interest rate card. Consider balance transfer promotions, 0% interest for a limited time. 4. Student debt. Americans face unique challenges since student debt can't be discharged in bankruptcy. Income-driven repayment plans, Repay, PAYE, IBR, ICR, limiting payments to 10 to 20% of discretionary income, public service loan forgiveness, work for nonprofit or government for 10 years, making qualified payments, and debt is forgiven. Tax-free Canadians have simpler options with the repayment assistance plan. 4. Mortgages. If interest rate less than 4%, pay minimum, invest the rest. If interest rate greater than 4%, pay off mortgage first or refinance. The chapter on No One's Coming to Save You reinforced a crucial lesson. Kristy's kindergarten teacher in China would hit students for infractions, what she calls smack time. Her father knew about this but didn't intervene, teaching her the concept of chi ku, eating bitterness. The idea is that sometimes life is unfair, and you need to develop the strength to save yourself. This lesson proved vital when Kristy entered the workforce. While her peers relied on their parents or assumed opportunities would come, Kristy knew she had to create her own safety net. She shares powerful stories of readers who saved themselves. Susan grew up with an alcoholic father, paid her own way through community college, and worked her way up to $100,000 salary in 12 years. Melissa, raised in Chicago shelters, got 5 degrees including a PhD, now earns 6 figures. Nick, father lost his job right before college, forcing Nick to become financially independent, which taught him habits his siblings never learned. The message is clear: don't wait for someone else to fix your problems. Build your own safety net through education, hard work, and smart money management. Chapter 7-8, From Purse Junkie to Budget Optimization. After landing her first full-time job, Kristy fell into what she calls the immigrant money rebound effect. She became obsessed with Coach purses, buying 5 in just a few weeks. She'd watch unboxing videos on YouTube and knew how to identify fakes, where purses were made by serial code, and could spot specific models from 20 feet away. She'd literally stick her face inside new purses and inhale deeply, what she now admits was definitely not crazy behavior. The turning point came when a delivery person arrived with another purse. Kristy looked down and saw a half-finished Coke she'd abandoned. The same Coke that had been her most precious possession as a child was now an afterthought because of an empty bag. She realized she didn't like who she'd become, so she canceled her next order and finished that damn Coke. This led to one of the most important pieces of advice in the book, courtesy of Mario Haddad, Bryce's manager who grew up in war-torn Lebanon. Mario's philosophy: the past doesn't matter. What do we do now? When bombs were exploding in Lebanese marketplaces, dwelling on why did we come here today was pointless. You had 2 choices: help put out the fire or watch more people die. Mario carried this forward-focused mindset into his career, and it made him incredibly effective at solving problems. Kristy shares 2 powerful examples. Joe's family, father's business failed in Thailand, immigrated to America with 3 suitcases, got attacked with a baseball bat during a pizza delivery, but scraped together $5,000 to buy a restaurant that put all the kids through college bill, accidentally sold fentanyl-laced drugs at a party, killing his friend, spent 10 years in prison, but came back to build a $250,000 net worth and now teaches others about finances. The neuroscience of spending reveals why Kristy's purse addiction happened. Dopamine, the pleasure chemical, is released when something good happens. But here's the twist: your nucleus accumbens doesn't respond to absolute dopamine levels, but to relative levels versus expectations. A German study from 2006 proved this. Subjects played a game winning €1. When they had a 100% chance of winning and did win, their nucleus accumbens showed no activity. But when they had only a 25% chance and won, their pleasure centers lit up dramatically. Pleasure equals reality minus expectations. This is the hedonic treadmill. Each purchase raises your baseline, requiring more spending to achieve the same happiness. It's like cocaine addiction. Users constantly chase their first high but can never quite reach it because their brain has recalibrated. But Kristy discovered something crucial: this effect only applied to possessions, not experiences. She and Bryce would take 2 $2,500 vacations per year, and every single one brought genuine, lasting happiness. They'd anticipate the trips, enjoy them fully, and relive memories afterward. Possessions, meanwhile, created a cycle of excitement followed by boredom and the need for the next purchase. This led to Kristy's revolutionary approach to budgeting, which acknowledges 3 types of spending: baseline costs, day-to-day expenses you get used to, rent, utilities; neutral impact on happiness splurges, occasional purchases that increase happiness; unexpected costs, emergency expenses that decrease happiness. Most people think budgeting means cutting everything and being miserable. But Kristy's 4-step process proves otherwise. Step 1. Eliminate baseline costs that don't make you happy. Bank fees. Switch to online banks. Unused subscriptions, cable packages with unwatched channels, landlines. Step 2. Eliminate baseline costs that hurt initially but you'll adapt to. Jogging to work instead of paying for transit. Kristy saved $200 per month and got fit, cooking at home instead of eating out. Buying used instead of new. Step 3. Reduce expensive things that create unexpected costs. Cars, maintenance, insurance, gas, repairs, houses, as we'll see in the next chapter. Step 4. Add splurges back. Take the money you saved and allocate it to things that genuinely make you happy, preferably experiences over possessions. The result? A budget that looks like this: low baseline costs plus minimal unexpected costs plus lots of happiness-producing splurges equals more happiness with less money. Kristy used this approach to bring her and Bryce's spending down to $40,000 per year in expensive Toronto, while dramatically increasing their quality of life. Chapter 9. Your house is not an investment. This chapter challenges one of the most sacred beliefs in personal finance: that owning a home is always better than renting. Kristy's Chinese culture is obsessed with homeownership to the point of irrationality. People who clip coupons to save $1 will overspend by hundreds of thousands in bidding wars. Let's break down the true cost of homeownership with Kristy's analysis. The average American family stays in a home for 9 years and keeps most of their net worth tied up in it. Suppose they buy a $500,000 house that appreciates at the stock market rate of 6% annually. After 9 years, it's worth $844,739, a gain of $344,739. Sounds great, right? But here are the hidden costs. Buying costs. Title search, $100 recording fee, $150 lawyer fees, $1,000. Annual ownership costs, times 9 years. Insurance, 0.5% of home value, $22, $500 maintenance, 1% of home value, $45, 000 property tax, 1% of home value, $45,000. Selling costs. Broker commission, 6% of sale price, $50, $684 land transfer tax, 1.2% of sale price, $10, $137 lawyer fees, $1,000. Total, $175,571. That $344,739 gain? 51% of it just vanished. But wait, we're not done. This assumes they paid cash. In reality, they probably put down 10% and took a mortgage. After 9 years, they'll have paid $162,033 in interest. New total costs, $337,604. That's 98% of their supposed gains. The tiny slice that remains is just 2%. And remember, this assumes the house appreciates at 6% annually, which is wildly optimistic. Houses historically appreciate at the rate of inflation, not the stock market. Kristy introduces the rule of 150 to determine when buying makes sense. Monthly mortgage payment times 150% equals true monthly housing cost. If this number is higher than comparable rent, keep renting. If it's lower, consider buying. For Kristy and Bryce, paying $850 per month in rent made far more sense than buying, which would have cost them $1,275 per month after applying the rule of 150. This realization was pivotal. Poor people buy stuff. The middle class buys houses. Rich people buy investments. If they weren't going to sink their savings into a house like everyone else, what should they do instead? The answer would change everything. Part 3. Becoming Wealthy. Chapter 10 to 11. The Real Bank Robbers and Surviving a Stock Market Crash. Kristy describes a hypothetical bank robbery where armed men burst in demanding wallets. But the real bank robbers, she explains, are the salespeople inside who want a percentage of your savings, every year forever. When Kristy first visited her bank to discuss investing, the salesperson pushed a mutual fund with the highest commission. He couldn't answer basic questions. Which stocks does it invest in? Determined by the fund manager. How does the manager choose? Proprietary algorithm. Can I meet the manager? That's not happening. She later discovered this super fund wrapped multiple funds, each with their own manager, all taking cuts, plus the salesperson's commission on top. It was a Russian nesting doll of fees. The turning point came when she learned about index investing from J.L. Collins. Instead of trying to pick winning stocks, gambling, or paying managers to do it, expensive and ineffective, index investing means buying everything. Key advantages of index investing. Can't go to zero. Individual companies go bankrupt, but unless every company goes bankrupt simultaneously, alien invasion scenario, the index survives. Self-cleansing mechanism. The S&P 500 tracks the 500 biggest companies by market cap. When a company grows, the index automatically buys more. When it shrinks, the index dumps shares. Companies that drop from number 500 to number 501 get kicked out entirely. Dramatically lower fees. Actively managed mutual funds charge 1 to 2% annually. The S&P 500 Index Fund, VTI, charges just 0.04%, 25 times lower. Let's see what that 1% fee really costs. In a 5-year period from 2013 to 2018, the S&P 500 with a 1% management fee would have cost an investor with $10,000 about $900, nearly 10% of their initial investment. Over 25 years, that same investor would pay $13,500 in fees, more than their initial investment. And here's the kicker. Only 15% of actively managed funds beat their benchmark indexes after fees. You're paying someone thousands of dollars annually, and there's an 85% chance they'll underperform a simple index fund you could buy for almost nothing. This is how Kristy steals from Wall Street. Index investing lets you benefit from all the research Wall Street analysts do, pricing every company, finding discrepancies, moving markets, without paying for any of it. You're getting a free ride on their work. Surviving the 2008 crash with modern portfolio theory. Kristy and Bryce started investing in September 2008. Within weeks, the markets crashed. Kristy watched $20,000 plus vanish from their portfolio and nearly hit the sell all button. Bryce stopped her. They survived because of modern portfolio theory, developed by Nobel Prize winner Harry Markowitz. It says assets have two characteristics: expected return, percentage gain per year, volatility, standard deviation, or how much it bounces around. Stocks have high return and high volatility. Bonds have lower return and lower volatility. By combining them, you create an efficient frontier of portfolios with different risk/return profiles. Their initial portfolio: 40% bonds, 20% Canadian stocks, 20% U.S. stocks, 20% international stocks, EAFE. This gave them 60% equities for growth, 40% bonds for stability. The magic happens with step 4 of modern portfolio theory, rebalancing. During the crash, stocks plummeted but bonds rose. Money flows to safety during crises. Their portfolio might start at 60/40ths, but after the crash it became 50/50 because stocks lost value. Rebalancing meant selling bonds, which had gone up, and buying stocks, which had crashed. This forced them to sell high, bonds trading above target allocation, buy low, stocks trading below target allocation. It also removed emotion from the equation. Kristy's panic said, sell everything. But the math said, buy more stocks. The result? The S&P 500 took until April 2012 to recover its pre-crisis levels. But Kristy and Bryce fully recovered their money by 2010, 2 years into the crisis, because they bought heavily during the crash and owned more units when the rebound came. This is the power of a rules-based system. It removes fear and greed from investing. Chapter 12 to 13. Taxes are for poor people and never pay taxes again. Taxes are for poor people comes from Leona Helmsley, a real estate mogul who famously said, "We don't pay taxes. Only the little people pay taxes." She went to prison for tax evasion, but that's beside the point. Warren Buffett once remarked that he pays a lower tax rate than his secretary. How is this legal? Because investment income is taxed more favorably than earned income, and rich people know how to use legal tools that everyone has access to but most people don't understand. Tax shelter versus tax deferral. Tax shelter, like Roth IRA. Contributions, not deductible, you've already paid taxes. Growth, tax-free withdrawals, tax-free. Tax deferral, like 401k. Contributions, deductible, reduces taxable income now. Growth, tax-free withdrawals, taxed as regular income. U.S. retirement accounts. Employer-sponsored. 401k, private companies, $19,000 limit in 2019, 403b nonprofits, $19,000 limit, 457, state employees, $19,000 limit, TSP, federal employees, $19,000 limit. Individual accounts. Traditional IRA, tax deferred, $6,000 limit, Roth IRA, tax sheltered, $6,000 limit. Canadian retirement accounts. RRSP, tax deferred, 18% of previous year's income, max $26,500. TFSA, tax sheltered, $6,000 limit. Loophole number 1. Double contributing. Some employees qualify for both 403b and 457 if their employer is both a nonprofit and paid by state funds, hospitals, universities, government contractors. The contribution limit stack, $19,000 plus $19,000 equals $38,000 tax-deferred annually, plus $6,000 more if you're over 50. This is almost never advertised. You have to ask your HR department directly. Loophole number 2, backdoor Roth IRA. If you earn too much to contribute directly to a Roth IRA, over $137,000 single, $203,000 married in 2019. Open a traditional IRA, make a non-deductible contribution, $6,000. Immediately convert it to your Roth IRA. Boom, you've contributed to a Roth IRA despite being over the limit. Which accounts to fund first? If your employer matches contributions, max that out first. It's free money. If you're in the 10 to 12% tax bracket, fund your Roth IRA first. The tax deduction isn't worth much. If you're in the 22% plus tax bracket, max your 401k/traditional IRA first, then your Roth IRA. Never paying taxes again. Here's how Kristy and Bryce pay $0 in taxes despite being millionaires. Different income types are taxed differently. Employment income, regular tax rates. Interest, taxed like employment income. Qualified dividends, 0% up to $78,750 for married couples. Long-term capital gains, 0% up to $78,750 for married couples. Property, taxed annually as percentage of value. After retiring, their employment income dropped to $0. They structured their portfolio to generate qualified dividends and capital gains, keeping them under $78,750 annually. Tax optimization example. $1 million portfolio allocated. $200,000 in bonds investment account, NO, put in 401k. $400,000 in stocks, investment account, yes, generates qualified dividends. $200,000 in REITs, investment account, NO, put in 401k. $200,000 in preferred shares, investment account, yes, qualified dividends. By putting interest-paying assets, bonds, REITs in tax-deferred accounts and dividend-paying assets, stocks, preferred shares in regular accounts, they pay $0 in taxes. Accessing 401k money before age 59 and a half. The Roth IRA conversion ladder. Roll your 401k into a traditional IRA after leaving your job each year. Convert an amount equal to your standard deduction, $24,400 for couples, from traditional IRA to Roth IRA. Wait 5 years. Withdraw that conversion tax-free and penalty-free. Repeat annually. By year 6, you're withdrawing $24,400 per year tax-free, every year, indefinitely. Capital gains harvesting. Say you own stock that's gone from $500,000 to $600,000. That's $100,000 in unrealized gains. Normally, you'd avoid selling to avoid taxes. But if you're in the 0% capital gains bracket with room left under $78,750, sell enough shares to realize $44,750 in gains, filling up your 0% bracket. Immediately rebuy those shares at the new price. You've reset your cost basis higher, reducing future tax liability, and you paid $0 in taxes. Final result. Portfolio, $1 million generating $35,000 in dividends. Roth IRA conversion, $24,400 capital gains harvested. Varies, but keeps under the $78,750 limit. Total taxes paid, $0. This isn't tax evasion, it's using the system exactly as Congress designed it. They want you to save for retirement and not depend on Social Security. These tax breaks are intentional incentives. Chapter 14, The Magical Number That Saved Me. By age 30, Kristy had made it to the middle class with a comfortable engineering salary. But work became hell. Her department was being restructured. Friends were laid off without warning. Her best friend received a pink slip the day after returning from her grandmother's funeral. Her boss developed a blood clot and worked through it with a cane. Her mentor collapsed at his desk and nearly died. One day, Kristy experienced her first panic attack. She realized, money is worth bleeding for, but not worth dying for. This led to a crucial mindset shift. The scarcity mindset had helped her escape poverty, but now it had morphed into a hoarding mindset. She was still sacrificing her health and time for money, even though survival was no longer at stake. There was no off switch. Kristy read a newspaper story about a man who worked hard for decades to travel the world in retirement. But he never retired because he was always scared he didn't have enough. He died at his desk. His kids cremated him, put his ashes in a tin can, and traveled the world for him. That's when Kristy shifted to the freedom mindset. Money's primary purpose isn't accumulation, it's buying back your time. She discovered the Trinity University study on retirement planning, which produced the 4% rule. If you withdraw 4% of your starting portfolio value, adjusted for inflation, annually, you have a 95% chance of your money lasting 30+ years. This meant annual expenses times 25 equals target portfolio size. For Kristy and Bryce spending $40,000 per year, $40,000 times 25 equals $1 million. That was their magic number. Once their portfolio hit $1 million, they could retire with 95% certainty of never running out of money. But here's what blew Kristy's mind. Your time to retirement depends on savings rate, not income. A millionaire spending $1 million a year can never retire, 0% savings rate. Someone earning $40,000 and spending $30,000 can retire eventually, 25% savings rate. Kristy created a chart plotting savings rate against years to retirement. 5 to 10% savings rate, 40 to 50 years, normal retirement at 65, 25% savings rate, 32 years 50% savings rate, 17 years 60% savings rate, 12.5 years 75% savings rate, 7 years. The curve is logarithmic, not linear. Small increases in savings rate dramatically reduce time to retirement because you're doing two things simultaneously. Reducing your target number, lower expenses equals smaller portfolio needed, increasing contributions, more money going in annually. It's like moving the finish line closer while running faster toward it. When Kristy analyzed their spending, she discovered they'd been saving 52 to 78% of their income. They were just 3 years from retirement and didn't even know it. That evening when Bryce came home, she told him, "Hey hon, I think we can retire in our 30s. Chapter 15, Cash Cushion and Yield Shield. The 4% rule has one major problem. 5% of retirements still fail. The difference between success and failure often comes down to sequence of return risk, what order your good and bad years come in. If you retire right before a boom, you'll be fine. If you retire right before a bust, you could run out of money even though someone else with the exact same portfolio succeeds. Kristy and Bryce developed a two-part solution. Part 1. The cash cushion. Keep 5 years of expenses, minus portfolio yield, in a high-interest savings account. During market downturns, use this instead of selling stocks at a loss. Part 2. The yield shield. Temporarily pivot your portfolio to higher-yielding assets. Preferred shares, hybrid of stocks and bonds, 4 to 6% yield versus 2% for stock index REITs, real estate investment trusts, 5% yield corporate bonds, investment-grade bonds, 1 to 2% higher than government bonds dividend stocks, mature companies paying higher dividends, 3 to 4% yield. Example calculation. Standard portfolio yields 2.5% on $1 million equals $25,000 per year expenses, $40,000 per year. Gap, $15,000 per year. 5-year cash cushion, $15,000 times 5 equals $75,000. With yield shield. Optimized portfolio yields 3.5% on $1 million equals $35,000 per year expenses, $40,000 per year. Gap, $5,000 per year. 5-year cash cushion, $5,000 times 5 equals $25,000. By raising the yield shield from 2.5% to 3.5%, they reduce their required cash cushion from $75,000 to just $25,000, a massive difference. Critical note: this yield shield portfolio is only for the first 5 years of retirement. After that, pivot back to traditional index funds for optimal long-term performance. You're taking on extra volatility temporarily to reduce sequence of return risk, then returning to the proven index strategy. On their last day of work, Kristy and Bryce had achieved their $1 million target, plus a $25,000 cash cushion. Their rocket ship was ready for launch. Chapters 16 to 20. Traveling, Kids, Fear, and Living the Dream. In 2015, Kristy and Bryce quit their jobs and began traveling the world. They budgeted $40,000 for the year, the same amount they'd spent living in Toronto. The shocking result? They spent exactly $40,150. They had visited 20 countries across 3 continents, flown around the entire globe, done something very few people on Earth have the privilege of doing, and it cost the same as staying home. Here's their breakdown. North America, 1 month $2,441 per month. UK, 1 month $3,962 per month. Western Europe, 1 month $3,515 per month. Eastern Europe, 1 month $2,657 per month. Asia, 2 months average $2,810 per month. Southeast Asia, 6 months average $1,896 per month. By spending more time in inexpensive regions like Southeast Asia, they balanced out the expensive months in Western Europe and Japan. In Chiang Mai, Thailand, brand new 1-bedroom condo with gym, sauna, pool, $470 per month. Fresh seafood for $2, $12 chicken pad thai, $1.25 hour long oil massage, $10. They realized, we can travel the world forever. Travel hacking. Kristy and Bryce accumulated 200,000 frequent flyer points each before leaving by strategically signing up for credit cards with sign-up bonuses. Chase Sapphire Preferred, 60,000 points after $4,000. Spend various other cards following the 5/24 rule. Max 5 personal credit cards across all banks in 24 months to stay eligible for Chase cards. Result: they flew long-haul routes for just the $80 to $100 in taxes, saving about $6,000 per year. According to the 4% rule, this is equivalent to having an extra $150,000 in their portfolio. Using Airbnb instead of hotels saved them roughly $12,000 per year, another $300,000 in portfolio equivalency. Between travel hacking and Airbnb, they essentially reduced their required portfolio by $450,000. What about kids? The most common objection to their lifestyle: you couldn't do this with kids. Kristy collaborated with 3 financially independent parents. Pete Adonai, Mr. Money Mustache, retired in Colorado with 1 son. Justin McCurry, retired in North Carolina with 3 kids. Jeremy Jacobson travels the world with his son. Their analysis of USDA's claim that raising a child costs $233,610 until age 18. USDA's breakdown versus reality. Housing, $67,747 USDA. Justin, $500 per year per kid, bought bigger house for $18,000 total. Jeremy, $350 per month extra for second bedroom. Pete, $2,400 per year. Food, $42,050 USDA. Justin, $100 per month per kid using discount stores. Pete, $122 per month per person using Costco bulk groceries. Jeremy, significantly less in Asia. Childcare, $37,378 USDA. When you're retired, $0. You're home with your kids. Transportation, $35,042 USDA. USDA assumes you'll buy a bigger car and a car for your teenager. Justin, $8,000 used minivan plus $5,000 used car for daughter equals $14,000 total. Jeremy, $150 for a stroller, bikes everywhere. Pete, walk/bikes, no intention to buy son a car. Healthcare, $1,500 per year USDA. With ACA, actually saves money with more kids, family subsidies, expat insurance, $400 per year per additional child. Clothing, $18,000 USDA. Justin, $3,600 per kid over 18 years. Pete, $500 per year, hand-me-downs and used shoes. Final totals. USDA estimate, $233,610 per child. Justin's actual, $46,800 per child, 20% of estimate. Jeremy's actual, net profit after tax credits. Pete's actual, $100,080 per child, 43% of estimate. World schooling. For traveling families, there's an entire community of world schoolers who educate their kids on the road. Learning history by visiting battlefields in Vietnam, learning languages through immersion, learning math, calculating exchange rates, learning geography by hiking mountains, learning astronomy by navigating with stars. The movement started in the early 2000s when alternative education advocates merged with digital nomads. The first wave of world-schooled kids has now come of age, and they're thriving, often more socially developed, entrepreneurial, and well-rounded than traditionally schooled peers. College admissions? No problem. World-schooled students stand out with unique experiences. Many take advanced placement classes online for college credit. Some return to traditional school for final high school years if desired. The fear of retirement. When Kristy and Bryce were about to retire, they faced 3 major fears. Running out of money, addressed through Yield Shield, Cash Cushion, and backup plans. Loss of community. They found their tribe at Chautauqua retreats and through the FI community. Loss of identity. Kristy finally pursued her childhood dream of becoming an author, getting published by Penguin Random House. The wall of fear before retirement turned out to be far scarier than reality. 3 years after retiring, net worth grew from $1 million to $1.3 million. They're spending less each year, personal inflation rate is negative. Their portfolio success rate has gone from 95% to 100%. Kristy became a published author. They visited dozens of countries and had experiences they never dreamed possible. Chapter 21. You don't need $1 million to break free. The biggest misconception: you need a 6-figure salary to retire early. Reality check. A couple earning the U.S. median income of $62,175 can still retire early. After taxes, 15.2% average $52,724 net income, living on $40,000 per year. What Kristy lived on in Toronto, what Justin lives on with 3 kids. Savings, $12,724 per year. Savings rate, 24%. With 6% investment returns. Year 10, $167, 7 12-year 20, $468, 0 60-year 30, $1,005,936. They can retire at age 54, assuming they started at 24, 11 years earlier than normal retirement age of 65. But there are 3 ways to accelerate this. 1. Side fire. Work a side hustle in retirement generating $20,000 per year. Required portfolio, $40,000 to $20,000, times 25 equals $500. 000 time to FI, 21 years instead of 30 saves 9 years. Even a hobby earning just $5,000 to $10,000 per year reduces your required portfolio by $125,000 to $250,000. 2. Partial FI. Work part-time or as a contractor. Earn $28,000 per year after taxes. Need only $12,000 from portfolio-required portfolio. $12,000 times 25 equals $300. 000 time to FI, 15 years saves 15 years. 3. Geographic arbitrage. Retire somewhere inexpensive like Vietnam, Thailand, Mexico, Portugal, or Poland. Living costs in Vietnam/Thailand, $13,560 per year for a couple required portfolio. $13,560 times 25 equals $339. 000 time to FI, 16.5 years saves 13.5 years. Combining side fire plus geographic arbitrage. Living costs, $13,560 per year side hustle income, $10,000 per year need from portfolio, $3,560 per year required portfolio, $89, 000 time to FI, 6 years. Conclusion: go your own way. Personal finance books often contradict each other because there are actually 3 valid paths to wealth. The Hustler, Robert Kiyosaki, Tim Ferriss, Steve Jobs. Income, exceptional savings, average investments, average path, entrepreneurship, creating businesses, scaling without time constraints, comfortable with risk and debt. The Investor, Warren Buffett, Benjamin Graham, John Bogle. Income, average savings, average investments, exceptional path, turning money into more money through superior investment selection, skilled at using leverage and debt strategically. The Optimizer, Kristy, Mr. Money Mustache, J.L. Collins. Income, average savings, exceptional investments, average path, obsessively controlling expenses, maximizing value, living well for less risk-averse, tracking every penny. The key insight: the Optimizer path is mathematically reproducible. You can copy Kristy's exact moves and get the same result. You can't copy Steve Jobs, Apple already exists, or Warren Buffett's stock picks, prices have changed. But you can copy the Optimizer strategy. The power of poverty. Kristy's poverty wasn't a disadvantage, it was her secret weapon. It gave her the scarcity mindset, teaching her money's value, craft skills, creativity, resilience, adaptability, perseverance, the ability to identify invisible waste, and appreciation for constraints as drivers of innovation, the hunger to escape poverty that many comfortable people never develop. Most self-made millionaires have similar stories. They didn't succeed despite growing up poor, they succeeded because of it. The ultimate truth. If you understand money, life is incredibly easy. If you don't understand money, life is incredibly hard. Money isn't complicated. It's a series of simple lessons that individually are easy to grasp, but together become a superpower. Choose a career using pot scores, not passion. Avoid debt at all costs. Build an emergency fund. Invest in low-cost index funds. Understand tax optimization. Use the 4% rule to calculate your FI number. Protect your portfolio with a cash cushion and yield shield. Have multiple backup plans. Design your life around experiences, not possessions. Understand that time is your most valuable asset. Kristy went from digging in medical waste heaps to traveling the world as a millionaire. She didn't win the lottery, invent an app, or inherit money. She worked hard, chose her field strategically, saved aggressively, invested wisely, and optimized relentlessly. If she can do it starting from 44 cents a day, what's your excuse? Final thoughts. The journey from poverty to financial independence is reproducible. It's not about getting lucky, having a trust fund, inventing the next Facebook, winning the lottery, working 100-hour weeks forever, being miserable and cheap. It is about making smart career choices based on math, controlling spending through understanding your brain, investing systematically in index funds, using legal tax strategies everyone has access to, designing a life you actually want to live, protecting yourself with backup plans, understanding that money equals time. Kristy and Bryce are now in their 4th year of retirement. They've traveled to over 40 countries, maintained their net worth and grown it to over $1.3 million, published a children's novel, and this book helped thousands of readers achieve financial independence, proven that early retirement isn't just possible, it's accessible to anyone willing to do the math and follow through. Your past doesn't define you. It doesn't matter if you started with nothing, made financial mistakes, chose the wrong career, have student debt, are starting late. What matters is, what do we do now? Design your life. Calculate your numbers. Follow the system. The formula works. Thank you for listening to this summary of Quit Like a Millionaire. Now it's your turn. Go math shit up. This comprehensive audiobook summary covers all major concepts, stories, and actionable advice from Quit Like a Millionaire, structured for audio consumption with clear transitions, chapter markers, and an engaging narrative flow that maintains listener attention throughout the full hour-plus runtime.